too short? Good to go. All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening, thank you for coming. It's great to see so many people here. My name is Margaret Reeves. I am Senior Scientist at the Pesticide Action Network and a proud board member of the Equitable Food Initiative. I'll give you a couple words about PAN, and then we'll launch into the EFI story. So Pesticide Action Network is an international network of hundreds of organizations in dozens of countries that work collectively and independently to push for public policy that better protects people from exposure to pesticides, those people that have the greatest risk of exposure, and those people who have the greatest vulnerability to exposure to pesticides. That is, people who live in rural communities, farmers, kids are particularly vulnerable, and of course, farm workers. Farm workers are on the front line of exposure to agricultural pesticides. We also work on policy to promote a transition away from the use of highly hazardous pesticides. In other words, helping farmers make the transition away from the use of pesticides to more environmentally sound, socially just, and economically viable systems. Well, the Equitable Food Initiative is similarly focused on making a transformation of agriculture. Transformation away from the kind of agriculture that we hear so much about, and I'm talking large-scale produce production, that is notorious for exploiting farm workers, pesticide poisoning of farm workers, wage theft, sexual harassment, poverty wages, very, very bad working conditions. And so the EFI is about transforming this agricultural system to one in which workers have a dignified job, are respected, have a safe working conditions, and that they can work together in collaboration with the growers to identify problems, resolve problems, and do so in a way that creates greater efficiencies for the growers, that assures the growers a higher quality product, and hence the buyers also win in this situation. The buyers are assured a safer product, a product that is produced by workers who are treated with dignity, who earn a good wage, who are working in safe work conditions. And there are two key ways that the EFI does this. One is through a very rigorous set of 330 plus standards, or indicators of standards that address labor rights, food safety, and pesticide reduction. But the other key piece of the EFI is the workforce development model. Every single EFI-certified farm has a leadership team that has been trained by super qualified EFI bilingual trainers. Over 40 hours, each EFI farm invests 40 hours in training a representative team of workers in all areas of work on the farm, from the pickers to management. And this team is responsible for helping the farm come into compliance with the standards and to remain in compliance with the standards 365 days out of the year, not just the day before the auditor comes on the farm. And that's really different from a lot of these other systems. The other thing that the EFI training does in these leadership teams is the workers are provided with tools that they can use to help identify problems on the farm, to work as a collective team to resolve those problems before they become big problems, and as I mentioned before, to identify ways in which the production can be more efficient and produce a better quality for the grower. So those are the two fundamental pieces of the EFI. So now, after 5 short years, the first certifications were in 2013, and in fact, we're going to hear from workers who were on that very first farm that was certified in 2013. We now have more than 22,000 workers on EFI-certified farms from Canada, the US, and Mexico. And 27 EFI-certified farms. But it needs to grow. And that's why we're here today in the third of our first 3 consumer engagement activities. 2 days ago we were in Merced, yesterday we were in Salinas, today we're in Oakland, and we're asking consumers now to help us get the message out to the buyers that we need more we need buyers to buy more EFI-certified product. Why? Because if you get more buyers than those EFI-certified farms who are already selling to one buyer but are only selling 15 or 20% of their product have another buyer, then that premium that goes to the workers will be increased significantly. So the EFI workers will get a better benefit. And if you get more buyers, you get more farms. If you get more farms, then you get a greater number of workers who are benefiting from the EFI. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a couple speakers. I will introduce the next speaker, and then we're going to ask you to stick around and take action. And what that is going to be is sign a postcard that says, Safeway, please buy EFI certified product. And for those of you watching this on Facebook Live, you can take an online version of this postcard. You can find it in the comment section, and so you too can participate in this. And for all of the people that you know who would be here who aren't, just you can let them know about the Facebook post, and they can look at it at any time, so it'll live on. So this campaign is just beginning, and we will be asking Safeway to buy EFI certified product. So before I introduce the speakers, I want to just shout out a couple thank yous. I want to thank our supporters, the Goldman Foundation and Oxfam America, and I want to especially mention Oxfam America because it was back when the idea of the EFI just started, and Ramon will talk about this. It was Oxfam America that incubated the EFI for several years until we were able to wean ourselves from Oxfam and become our own nonprofit 501c3 organization. So thank you, Oxfam, from the very beginning and with their current support now. I also want to shout out to the EFI staff, an incredible staff from the administration to the communications to the folks who manage the very complex certification system and to the incredible team of bilingual trainers who go to each EFI farm to train those leadership teams. I also want to shout out to the EFI board, the 16 members on the board, including myself and including Ramon Ramirez, from whom you will hear speak, and farm worker organizations, growers, buyers, consumer advocates, and others make up this dynamic, unusual, multi-stakeholder initiative. I also want to call out the PAN staff, who have been super supportive of bringing this together, and especially Marley in the back there, who's been a PAN intern, helping me put this all together. And I also want to call out the Berkeley Food Institute, who have been very supportive in supporting research by outside folks who have provided information that very much helps the EFI do its own evaluations of how we're working and what we can improve, what's going well and what might be not going so well, and where we can make improvements. In fact, one of those researchers is here. So if you want to talk to him, you can talk to Ron. And I also want to call out Andrew Williamson. Andrew Williamson is the first EFI grower. Andrew Williamson is the grower from whom we have two great workers who are going to talk to you after Ramon. And we've got Jackie here, who has been with Andrew Williamson for I don't know how long, but she's been with EFI from the very, very beginning. And I just have to tell one tiny little anecdotal story. One of the EFI key people on the board, Ernie Farley, we've been in many, 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 many meetings. And I don't know how many of those meetings he said, well, we got to talk to Jackie to make sure this thing is going to work. And so Jackie has been behind the scenes from day one, and I thank you so much for all of your support. And finally, I want to just shout out our co-hosts for this event here tonight, Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment, and the Heal Food Alliance. So with this, I now want to introduce our speakers. The first speaker is Ramon Ramirez. He is the president and co-founder of the Oregon-based farm worker union, PECUN. He is also one of the co-founders of the EFI, and he will talk about some of the history there. I've known Ramon for many, many years. I am honored, thrilled to be able to do this speaking tour with Ramon, because every time he tells a story, I learn something new. And with that, I'm going to leave it, and thank you, Ramon.
Thank you very much, Margaret, for that introduction. This is somewhat of a homecoming to me because I was active back in the late 70s and early 80s with an organization called the National Network for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. And we celebrated about 5 years ago its 25th anniversary just right next door. And so it was one of the premier immigrant rights organizations in the United States. And I also have a lot of friends here, Lillian Gallardo, also Bill Tamayo, who's now with the EEOC, and David Bacon, all were members and active in the National Network for Immigrant Rights. So with that, as Margaret says, my name is Ramon Ramirez. I'm president of the board of directors of ECUN. We are Oregon's farm worker union. We formed the union in 1985 with about less than 100 workers because of the living and working conditions farm workers face in the Willamette Valley in the state of Oregon. Very much like the conditions that exist here in the state of California and other places where farm workers live. You know, farm workers are not covered by the National Labor Relations Act, with the exception of California, so there's a host of problems farm workers make. On the average in my state, probably about $1,600 or $16,000 a year. Live in poor working conditions. The life expectancy rate of farm workers, 49 years of age compared to 78 for the general population. And this statistic holds true even in California. You know, the cancer rate among farm workers is about 25% higher than the general population. In the county I live in, Marion County, we have about a 50% farm worker women face 50% higher miscarriages than the general population. There has never been a national study done on the long-term acute effect that pesticides have on farm workers. But we know that we see all these issues, right? Farm workers are being shortchanged. At least 30 years of their lives. The only study that has ever been concluded was done by the Government Accounting Office, which is the investigative arm of Congress, which stated that on a yearly basis, over 300,000 farm workers are poisoned by pesticides. So in Oregon, we started organizing to improve the living and working conditions of farm workers, but we haven't been able to help all farm workers. We have gotten a total of about 11 contracts. We're down to about 3 or 4 today. We've made a lot of policy changes in regards to improving the lives of farm workers. We got farm workers included in the increase of minimum wage. We got farm workers covered in terms of paid sick leave. So in this country, there's only 4 or 5 states in the whole country that have paid sick leave laws protecting workers from, you know, they could take sick leave when they get sick to see a doctor and they get paid for it. So we are the only state, except for California, that has covered farm workers in paid sick leave. That's the sorry state of affairs in America. Also, there's only 5 states in the United States that actually give paid break times to farm workers. Only 5. So while we started the union, we've been able to register about 6,500 members. We're in the Willamette Valley, so we're not a statewide union, but just concentrated in 2 counties, Marion and Polk counties. We've done a lot, but we need to do more. And that was one of the things that motivated us to look at this alternative model to protect workers. We got called by a good friend of ours, who was actually a program officer at the time with Oxfam America, Guadalupe Gamboa, and Minor Sinclair, to start looking at the idea of creating a certification label that had meaningful worker rights standards. I come from an area in the Northwest where the Food Alliance was one of the #1 labels. Even though a lot of the growers use that label as a way of selling their product, to get the consuming public to say that they're sustainable. They never included worker rights standards in that label. So when we asked them if a worker made a complaint, are they free from retaliation? Is there a process in place where people can air their differences? Do they have a freedom to organize if they choose to self-organize into a union or a worker association? And the answer was no. So the idea of coming together around building a certification label really resonated with us. In the 50 years that Cesar Chavez started organizing in the San Joaquin Valley, currently we only have 100 contracts. We probably have under 100 contracts among the three unions. In Pecun, Flock, that's organizing workers in Ohio, and in North Carolina, and the UFW. There's a fourth union now, a new union that's up in Billingham, Washington, called Unidos, and they just got a union. They represent about 200 or 300 workers in berries. But that's it. We represent 0.001% of the farm workers in the state of Oregon. And we had to do something. It's not only about building power for unions, but it's about improving the lives of workers, right? And so when Flock and Pecun and UFW got together to look at alternatives, we also included National Farm Worker Ministries and Farm Worker Justice as sort of like the groups working with farm workers. We started looking at alternative models. So a group of us went down to Latin America to look at some of the models that are being used, that workers are using and developing worker associations and unions down there. And what particularly, the one area that we were really interested in is what's happening in Ecuador with farms that are producing flowers for export to Europe and Eastern Europe. And so they have a model where the workers are self-organized into a worker association. If you take all the benefits and all the rights that these workers have and you write them down, that would be one of the strongest contracts in the US. But they don't consider themselves a union. Therefore, there's not that polarization among the growers and the union or the workers when they start organizing themselves. And one thing that was really particularly interesting is that they were involved in developing production standards for the farm. So they developed a partnership among the grower and the workers. They were also part of developing the marketing of it, and they were involved in making sure that the product they were picking was done properly so that they could make maximum profit from their sales to the European market. And all that, they would get paid a premium, and they would use the money to develop a micro-enterprise system, and they gave out loans to the workers in that association to build their homes, to build a community center, a daycare center, and a food distribution center for the workers. So they built co-ops. So we looked at that model, and we liked that model because it was workers organizing themselves, having a say at the workplace, and then reaping the benefits from that work. So that was kind of like the model that we were really interested in doing. We knew that it was going to be hard sale to go and say to growers that if you wanted to use this label, you had to have a union contract. We never abandoned, and we will never abandon our efforts to unionize workers, but we feel that this model, in the long run, would educate, build consciousness among workers, will develop their leadership, and make them stronger. And it's not only about participating in the farm that they work in their workplace, but it's about giving them a say in that farm and also in their community and help build their family unit. So we started a process that took us many, many years, and we built a multi-stakeholder initiative, like Margaret was saying, that included retailers. So we went to the very people that we were boycotting, or we were about to boycott back in Oregon. And a couple of the companies were Bon Appetit, which is a high-end food service around the country, and we went to Costco. We know the executive director, the CEO, Jim Signagle, and we told him that we were interested in building this new model. And we told him, would you help us? And he says, I am interested in that model. So at one of the meetings when we were putting together the multi-stakeholder initiative, we had invited some organizations who cared about food and health safety, food safety. So we invited the Confederation, the Consumer Federation of America. We invited PANA. We also invited Bon Appetit, Culvert Investments, that invested in social responsible companies. We also invited Costco, and then we invited some of the growers that sell product to Costco, in particular Andrews and Williams, to start developing this idea. And so after 8 years of work, we finally put it together. And about 5 years ago, we launched the first certification process, which what Margaret said is basically works like this. The centerpiece of this is really about getting retailers to take on more responsibility and to act responsible. Because in our work in Oregon, and I'm sure in Baltimore was also reiterated this, and the UFW, was that the smaller growers, even the larger growers, their profit margin is not that great. And that the retailers are really making all the money. And that they needed to share that money. So we in the EFI system, if you opt in and you buy product to Costco's willing to pay your farm a 15% premium. At best, in my state, where I live, growers make, at best, and this would be a good year, would be like 6 to 8% profit. 8% profit would be maximum of their product they sell, they grow and sell. So here's a company that would be willing to pay you 15% in premium. That's a no-brainer, right? To me. I mean, because this model, we used it with some of the farms that we have contracts with, where we're selling union product with a union label to some of our farms, right? For example, in the strawberries, with a company that we have under contract right now, we're selling at least 20% of their product with a union label, and we know that they're not making enough money. You know, and this farm is one of the only farms in Oregon that's paying their workers $15 an hour. So we came together and we created the EFI, and essentially what it works is that a farm comes in and wants to participate with EFI. They go through a certification process. We have a third-party certifier that goes to the farm, and we have, like Margaret said, over 300 indicators to ensure that that farm will meet the requirements to get that certification label that you see. Was that on this side or this side? Is that label is right here on this side. And so, you know, so they go through a process, right? And if you don't make it the first time, we'll tell you what you need to fix and what you need to do to make that certification. So in 5 years, we've been able to certify 27 farms. We've been able to, I think we have another 8 to 10 farms that are some type of prototype or pilot project. So at the end of the year, we're gonna bring in more farms. And we've also are representing about 22,000 workers, right? And that is, to me, a major accomplishment, right? Because the other part, the most important part of this process is that we're changing the way the system of agriculture, the imbalanced system of agriculture that exists today, where the workers don't have any power, none at all. And so we want to, in order for the EFI system to effectively work, we have to create a new partnership. A new partnership where the workers and the management come together and build a team, which we call a leadership team, where they actually are trained as to what are the standards, those 300 standards that we talked about. They also set up a mechanism so that the workers and the management can come together and develop a process so that they can deal with the problems that exist in the farms. The workers are trained to that process so that they have the ability, free from fear of retaliation, to bring out issues. And that's the beauty of developing this process, right? So, there was a lot of mistrust, and so workers will talk about that, right? But we were really interested in developing a new partnership, a new system of doing business that brought up the workers. So what have been the benefits of this, right? We know that the growers are making 15%, right? We always get the question, what's in it for the growers, right? What's money? It's economics, right? If at best you're making 6% of total profit after everything, and Costco's willing to pay you 15%, I would go with that deal in a minute, in a heartbeat, because it's a profit making. What's in it for Costco? What's in it for Costco is that not only are they doing the right thing, and they're a good, social responsible company, but at the end of the day, what this process, the EFI process, means to Costco is that they understand that their customers. By the way, who here, raise your hand if you go to Costco or you shop at Costco? Raise your hand. Enough of you, right? So Costco knows who you are. Costco knows what you buy, how much money you spend, right? So their economic interest is not necessarily tied into like this label, although they'll say that it's the best thing that ever happened to them because they're getting more customers. And that's why at the end of these meetings, I do a lot of presentations on EFI at schools and colleges and universities, and with community groups and with consumer groups, right? And at the end of the day, man, everybody says, I ask them, now will you raise your hand if you will go buy product at Costco after hearing this presentation? And everybody raises their hands. Because what they're doing is they're helping directly improve the lives of farm workers. For too long, farm workers have been at the bottom of the economic ladder, right? For too long, statistics like 49 years of age, the life expectancy of a farm worker compared to 78 for the general population. That is incredible, right? We need to do something about it, and we are, through EFI. What's in it for the worker? Well, the worker makes money. The worker will make more money. The worker will produce a better product, right? The workers also learn skills they never had, right? It's taken the labor movement, 80 years, right? And we still aren't there to build the political conscience and build worker power, right? And it starts with empowering farm workers, right? And that's what we're doing. We're giving workers that never had the opportunity to sit down and have a say in the workplace, develop a system where they can meet on a regular basis with their employer, solve differences, educate other workers, right? Deal with issues like sexual harassment in the workplace, or hygiene in the workplace, or discrimination in the workplace. This is what our workers in EFI farms are dealing with every day, day in and day out. And we're giving them the tools to do that. That's the beauty. Another thing that's really hard to measure, but in our conversations with workers that work in farms that are under the EFI label, they will tell us that their lives as individuals have improved. Right? I talked to several workers who said, you know, because I'm working making a better wage, I no longer have to work another job. And I no longer have to work overtime and not get paid overtime. And now I go home and I can spend time with my kids. And my kids are improving also. So EFI is not only improving the life of the worker, but it's improving the life of their children, which at the end of the day is what the labor movement really wants. So that's why we bought into the whole idea of this process, the EFI process, because we're seeing that it's producing results. I had the opportunity to work with Margaret from PANA to do a number of trainings in a number of farms where we have EFI. Probably I've done about maybe 6 farms, trainings in about 6 farms in 27. And I've gone back to several of them to talk to the workers, and I'll see the improvement. Workers don't have that fear anymore to talk, right? When we were doing the trainings, every worker that I was talking to didn't believe that this process that we can make this process happen. People feared. Everybody I talked to had their heads down, right? Now I went back 2 years later to the farm in Welsonville, the farms that the workers are working in currently, and they held their head high. There was no holding back about what they had to say about EFI, and that is what we're trying to do. Is trying to improve their lives, giving them the tools, but also what they're doing is that for the farm, they're also producing a better product. We have some strawberries here, and you'll see that there's no labels on them of EFI, but all the products that they picked are high quality product. High quality. So the consuming public is benefiting. So I tell people, you know, we want you to go to Costco and Whole Foods and buy our product, right? Not only because it's benefiting workers, but because it tastes good also. Thank you. I want to bring up the 2 workers, Barbara, who works at Sierra Farms in Watsonville, also Pedro, who's also a worker at Sierra Farms, and they're going to talk about what their experience working for EFI has been. And then after they speak, then we'll have a question and answer. Is that all right?
Yeah, and we just have to make sure they stand when they're speaking behind the podium.
Okay, so compañeros, ¿quieren venir para acá?
And a couple people came in who don't speak Spanish. We don't have any more headsets, I think. Do we have any more?
You want them to sit here and I
So
can...
sit next to the up there and you can hear again. You guys understand?
Yeah.
And then the other thing, cuando hablan, tienen que estar ahí por el Facebook.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Bárbara Cendis y soy pescadora en Sierra Farms. Tengo 9 años en la pesca y soy representante del equipo de EFI. Represento a una cuadrilla de 35 trabajadores y cuando la compañía aceptó el reto de EFI, creo que demostró el interés que tiene en nosotros como personas y en cómo educarnos para expresarnos más cómo trabajar en equipo y cómo ser líderes ante nuestros compañeros, en quienes confiaron en nosotros al elegirnos como sus representantes. Con EFI hemos recibido entrenamientos de cómo mantener la higiene en nuestros ranchos, cómo trabajar juntos y cómo estar en comunicación con el patrón. Hacemos reuniones mensuales donde se comunica al patrón las inquietudes que tienen los trabajadores, y asimismo recibimos respuestas de nuestro patrón y lo hacemos en juntas con nuestros grupos. Ahí les comunicamos lo que el patrón espera de nosotros también, cómo cumplir con las normas para la certificación. Todos estamos tratando de mejorar, y creo que es un reto diario el cambiar las culturas que antes teníamos miedo de hablar hacia nuestros patrones por miedo a represalias. Con nosotros en nuestra empresa, en el rancho, no hay represalias. Podemos hablar de cualquier situación que suceda, ya sea acoso, sea hostigamiento, sea maltrato, porque no está permitido. Tenemos un área de botón rojo donde se especifican los puntos en que podemos hablar de que pueden ser graves y que debemos de hablar lo más pronto posible. Cómo reportarlo, los pasos a seguir para que esto no suceda y se arregle lo más pronto posible.
Vamos a parar aquí porque estamos grabando en vivo y necesitamos interpretar porque el público está afuera. No sé, no entiende. Entonces tienes que empezar. We have to interpret. We're live in Facebook, and so the public is not getting the translation. So.
Good point. So we're just going to do
You have my pen.
you can turn off the phone so we don't.
Yeah, because they're gonna just make static. Va a tener que hablar un ratito después. No. So do you want her to start over, Mark?
Yes.
Start over. Okay. Lo siento.
Es que no tengo apuntes. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Margaret Reeves y soy pescadora en la compañía de Sierra Farms por 9 años. Tengo desde el 2013 como representante del equipo de EFI.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Margaret Reeves. I've been a harvester on Sierra Farms for 9 years, and since 2013, I've been the representative of EFI on my farm.
Cuando la compañía aceptó el reto de EFI, se demostró el interés que tiene hacia nosotros como personas más que como números o trabajadores.
When the farm accepted the EFI label, they demonstrated that they were interested in us as people, not just as numbers.
Entonces para nosotros es muy importante que nos demuestren el interés que tienen en cómo mejorar nuestras vidas laborales, dándonos entrenamiento para así comunicarnos con nuestro equipo de trabajadores y asimismo ser un puente de comunicación hacia la gerencia.
So for us, it's been very important that they demonstrate this interest in us, and they've offered us training so that we can learn how to work in teams and that we can become leaders and work together with the owners of the farms.
Asimismo, se ha creado la confianza en nuestros compañeros de hablar sin miedo, que con nosotros no hay represalias y todos podemos hablar sobre lo que nos molesta, en lo que estamos contentos, y se lo hacemos llegar a la gerencia mediante juntas, reuniones que tenemos una vez al mes.
So this has given us the confidence to be able to speak to the administration on the farms about things that we like, things that we don't like. We have monthly meetings where we're able to communicate openly.
Ahora en nuestros campos se ha mirado más higiene, más responsabilidad social hacia nuestros compañeros, ya que podemos denunciar cualquier acoso, cualquier hostigamiento, cualquier mala palabra que se esté usando. Tenemos la libertad de hablarlo y decirlo sin miedo a represalias.
So now on our farms we've seen improvements in hygiene and social responsibility. We're able to bring up any issues of abuse, people using foul language. We're able to speak about those things right away.
Entonces ahora podemos trabajar más tranquilos en nuestro trabajo y podemos realizarlo con más gusto porque no tenemos esa sensación de que el compañero va a decir malas palabras o de que nos va a hostigar o nos va a poner sobrenombres.
So we can work a lot more comfortably on our farms because we have the confidence that other workers are not going to mistreat us, they're not going to call us names, they're not going to accost us.
Y la gerencia realmente ha aceptado el reto haciéndolo cumplir. No es solamente aceptar un libro de reglas y guardarlo y no hacer nada. Se está preocupando porque así sea y en cada auditoría se ha visto que se está cumpliendo.
So the administration has really taken this on and really accepted it. It's not just a rule book that they have filed away in a cabinet somewhere.
Cada auditoría, el auditor va y platica con personas de las cuadrillas, que son de 30 a 35 personas, las elige al azar de diferentes áreas y ellos tienen la libertad de responder lo que está sucediendo en el campo y cómo se sienten trabajando ahí.
So and we've seen the results of this in all of the audits. The audits happen where they interview 30 to 35 people that are randomly selected, and they basically tell the auditors everything that's going on the farm.
Entonces, para mí es bueno representar a mis compañeros, aunque al principio yo no quería, porque más que no confiar en las reglas que estaban poniendo, no creía que mis compañeros quisieran el cambio.
So for me, it's a great honor to represent my coworkers. At first, I didn't want to represent them, not because I didn't believe so much, but because I thought that maybe my coworkers didn't want these changes.
Y ahora, después de 5 años, se ha mirado la diferencia de que todos sí estamos haciendo el cambio y siempre va a haber alguien que no quiere aceptarlo, que no quiere las normas, que no le gusta, pero si está trabajando ahí, lo acepta por respeto y porque tiene que respetar a las personas que estamos trabajando bajo esas normas.
So now, after 5 years, we've seen almost everybody accepts the rules and works by the rules. There's always going to be 1 or 2 people, but if they're going to work on the farm, they have to accept it because they see now that that's the way we're working.
Y también ahora se puede mirar el cambio en las personas que hablan dialecto, hablan varios dialectos en nuestro trabajo. Antes venían con miedo por su cultura o por falta de educarse, de saber que son personas que valen, que tienen derechos. Ahora tienen el valor de hablar y de expresarse libremente ante todas las personas.
We can especially see this now among the people that speak indigenous languages on the farms. Before they were afraid to speak up, and now they have the confidence to speak up and they feel like they are valued members of the farm.
Entonces creo que sí se puede lograr el cambio poco a poco y con esfuerzo y dedicación de todos, un poquito a la vez. Gracias.
So I think that we can achieve these changes little by little with a lot of work and with participation of everybody involved. Thank you.
Okay. Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Pedro, soy representante de los mayordomos en un rancho de fresas acá en Oakland.
Hi, my name is Pedro, and I'm a representative of the foreman on a large ranch.
Voy a platicarle más o menos mi historia y la experiencia que he tenido durante el tiempo que estoy trabajando en el rancho y el tiempo que tengo también de representar a las cuadrillas en el rancho. Yo tengo 13 años aproximadamente trabajando en la compañía y yo sé que fue el primer rancho donde EFI llegó haciendo propuesta y toda la gente que traemos ahí trabajando fueron los responsables por tenerme aquí hasta ahorita y también mi empleador.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history working on the ranch and my history working as a representative for EFI on the ranch. I've been working there for about 13 years, and it was the first ranch to take on the EFI label, and I'm here today thanks to all of the people that work there.
Durante el transcurso del tiempo, se me da aproximadamente, tenemos entre 5 a 6 años con EFI. Yo siempre soy una persona incrédulo. Yo siempre tengo un dicho que dice, tengo que ver para creer.
Okay. We've been working 5 to 6 years with EFI, and I'm a very incredulous person. I am the kind of person that I say, show it to me, and then I'll believe it.
Porque como EFI, hay muchas organizaciones más, no nomás es el EFI. Entonces cada organización tiene su propuesta, proponen cosas, pero hay muchas de las veces que las cosas que proponen es beneficio nomás para ellos. En cambio EFI tienen otro sistema diferente de trabajar.
Because there are a lot of organizations, and a lot of organizations have a lot of promises, but at the end of the day, who's benefited from those organizations are the organizations themselves. But EFI is very different.
Porque muchas de las veces, muchas personas preguntan, dice, ¿estás pagando para estar en EFI? En EFI no se paga nada, al contrario, EFI te da las armas para superar y perder el miedo, conocer tus valores y ser respetado.
So people ask, do you pay to be a member of EFI? And no, you don't pay to be in EFI. EFI gives you the arms you need to develop yourself and to have greater respect.
Y yo creo que todos nosotros los que somos trabajadores del campo, lo que ocupamos son esas cosas. El respeto hacia nosotros, nuestros valores, ser justo y que se escuchen nuestras voces.
And I think that what farm workers need more than anything are those things that EFI offers. Respect, we need to be valued, we need justice, and we need our voices heard.
Porque de mi parte un ejemplo que les voy a contar. Yo llegué en este país sin poder hablar español. Yo tengo mi propio dialecto. Yo en mi niñez crecí con un dialecto, pero por lo mismo, por tanta indiferencia hacia los trabajadores, puse mi meta que dije, tengo que aprender a hablar en español y tengo que tener la mirada enfrente y no tener miedo, conocer mis derechos y hacer escuchar mi voz.
So I want to tell you as an example, when I came to this country, I didn't speak Spanish. I spoke my own indigenous dialect. But because of the disrespect that I saw in the workforce, in the work area, I established a goal for myself that I had to learn to speak Spanish so that I could move forward, so that I could have my rights be respected, and so that my voice could be heard.
Entonces mi empleador me dio esa oportunidad y se dieron esa oportunidad también de estar con EFI. Y yo creo que todo marcha bien hasta el momento. Y lo que yo creo que se ocupa es extendernos más. ¿Por qué? Porque EFI o todas las conferencias que hemos tenido son claves para que puedas superar tanto en tu trabajo y también en lo personal.
So my boss gave me that opportunity, and he also gave me the opportunity to be a member of EFI. And I think things are really good now, and it needs to be extended, it needs to be spread to other places. Why? Because EFI is key to be able to express yourself and have that respect.
Porque tanto en el trabajo y en la vida familiar siempre hay problemas. Nada ni nadie es perfecto, siempre va a haber problemas. La importancia es saber cómo resolver el problema, saber qué paso seguir. Y yo creo que esas son las claves que tenemos que buscar y extendernos para que se acabe todo lo que existe hasta ahorita.
So, and EFI has given us the key to be able to improve ourselves both in the work environment and in our family environments, because there's always going to be problems at work and in the family. The important thing is to be able to know how to resolve those problems.
Como el comentario que hizo Ramón, que escuché de Costco, a mí se me dio la oportunidad de platicar con el presidente de Costco cuando él fue al rancho de nosotros. Dijo, quiero calidad, ¿quieres calidad? Y nosotros, ¿qué estamos ganando por tu calidad?
So I had the opportunity, as Ramon mentioned, to speak to the president of Costco. And when the president of Costco came to our farm, he said, what I want is quality. And we said, oh, you want quality? That's fine. What will we get in exchange?
Ahí es donde él me dijo, ¿cuánto es lo que quieres ganar para sacar la calidad que yo deseo? Y fue mi respuesta, dije, lo que me alcance para mantenerme, mantener a mi familia y sostenerme. Y él dijo, ¿y cuánto es eso? Lo que es justo. No tengo que poner precio, todos sabemos qué es lo justo. Y él dijo, ok, voy a trabajar en esto y vamos a tener una respuesta.
So he asked me, so how much do you need to give me the quality I want? And what I said to him was, I need enough to maintain myself and my family. And he asked, how much is that? And I said, whatever is just. There's not a price, it's whatever is just. And he said, okay, we're going to work on that.
Entonces en ese momento fue cuando en mí mismo dije, gracias a Costco, si es que va a ser realidad lo que estoy diciendo, gracias a EFI por proporcionar el apoyo para nosotros, pero sobre todo gracias a mi empleador por tomarnos en cuenta los valores que tenemos nosotros y qué tan importantes somos aquí en este país y en donde quiera que vayamos.
So I said to myself, within myself, I said, well, thanks to Costco and thanks to EFI for providing that, and thanks to my boss for actually taking the steps to do that, because they're taking into account the importance of us, the value we have, both here in the U.S. and anywhere we might be.
Porque muchas de las veces el empleador lo que quiere es nomás ganar dinero, pero nunca piensa en sus trabajadores. Como les dije desde un principio, tengo 13 a 14 años aproximadamente trabajando con ellos. Y desde la primera vez que yo entré a trabajar con ellos, miré un futuro. Y miré que él se preocupa mucho de su gente. Cuando otros empleadores no lo están haciendo. Y hasta el día de hoy hay empleadores que lo que quieren es su dinero, y los que estamos trabajando, que hagamos como podamos.
So what does a boss usually want? A boss usually wants money, and they don't think about the workers. And like I said, I've been working 13 to 14 years there, and I saw a future there, because our boss worries about his people, whereas other bosses, they only want money and the workers be down.
Porque muchas de las veces nosotros los consumidores, les voy a hacer una pregunta a todos. Cuando vamos en una tienda quitamos la fresa en mente, sea otra fruta o verdura, lo que buscamos es la calidad, el color, el tamaño, pero de mi parte, esa no es la calidad. La calidad es la persona quien lo está cosechando. No tiene ningún sentido ver una fruta grande con puro color. Si no sabemos si la persona quien la cosechó fue tratado de buena manera, está ganando lo que es justo, más que nomás estamos viendo la calidad. La calidad es la persona, en dónde viene. Esa es la calidad para mí.
So we as consumers, I'm going to ask you all a question. When you go to the store, let's put strawberries aside for a minute. When you go to the store to look for fruit, what are you looking for? You're looking for quality. You're looking for the color. You're looking for the size. But that's not quality. Quality is the person who harvested that fruit. How were they treated? Were they paid in a just manner? That's what quality means to me.
Por eso yo creo que cuando un empleador busca la manera de que sus trabajadores conozcan sus derechos, salgan en la sombra en donde están, yo creo que uno mismo se da cuenta cuando ellos se preocupan de uno. Un ejemplo, si mi empleador no se preocupara por nosotros, nosotros no estuviéramos aquí. Pudiendo el empleador estar aquí dando conferencia por su gente, pero eso no fue así. Entonces, gracias a mi empleador por tomarnos en cuenta y quiere que se escuche nuestra voz, nos dio la oportunidad de venir a compartirlo con ustedes y aprender, nosotros de ustedes y ustedes de nosotros.
So it's nice when a boss seeks to support worker rights, and you know when that happens. For example, in our case, we would not be here. The boss could have come here himself and could have talked for his farm, but thanks to our boss, he gave us the opportunity to come so that we can learn from you and so that you can learn from us.
Por eso yo siempre he dicho y tengo en mente siempre que lo que uno quiere ser o quiere aprender o quiere lograr con el apoyo de todos nosotros, sí se puede. Y si buscamos a una organización que nos dé el apoyo para poder llegar a nuestras metas, yo siempre he dicho que todo se puede apoyándonos todos. Otro ejemplo les voy a poner, donde quiera que yo vaya, el ejemplo es, plantas un árbol, el árbol crece, pero va a dar fruto, depende de la calidad que le estás echando a la raíz. En una empresa es lo mismo. La empresa va a producir si sus trabajadores tienen los tratos justos, están teniendo su salario justo, es lo mismo. Es el ejemplo de un árbol hacia nosotros. La raíz somos nosotros y el resto sigue si somos tratados bien.
So I always think that with the help and support of an organization, we can achieve what we want. And an organization that supports us all and that we support also. The analogy I give is when you plant a tree, the tree will grow. But whether the tree fruits or not depends on what you give the roots. And this business is the same. The workers are the roots of the business. So if they have just payment, if they have good working conditions, then the business will get fruit.
Entonces yo les recomiendo a todos que por mi experiencia, todo el apoyo que me han brindado, EFI, mi empleador, es lo que me puso donde estoy ahorita. Nunca imaginé llegar aquí, enfrente de ustedes, dar mi discurso, mi experiencia, pero eso es la verdad y eso es lo que ocupamos. Ocupamos un soporte para levantarnos y salir de donde estamos. Y si ustedes se dan cuenta, nosotros no venimos con papeles con apuntes. Yo no traigo una tableta con apuntes que tengo que decir. Es mi experiencia lo que he vivido, lo que les estoy contando.
So this is my experience with all of the support of EFI and the support of my boss. And so here I am speaking to you, sharing my experience with you, which otherwise would not have been possible. And we need this kind of support in order to improve our lives. I'm not standing in front of you with a notebook or tables of data and information. I'm just telling you what I've lived and what I've experienced.
Entonces yo creo que lo que ocupamos es el apoyo de todos nosotros. Ustedes, al escuchar el discurso, tienen sus respuestas ustedes mismos. Y si tienen unas preguntas, cualquier pregunta que ustedes tengan, con mucho gusto se la respondemos. Y muchas gracias.
So this is what we need. We need everybody's support. Everybody who's listening here, you are listening. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Thank you.
So thank you very much. We're going to do question and answer now, but we're going to turn off the Facebook live stream so that because the Facebook live stream can't hear everybody out there. So thank you very much for joining us, and remember to sign online to the postcard for Safeway saying, please buy EFI certified product. Thank you.